Hello there, audience! I'm the Book Wizard. Yes, I wander from town to town, spreading the joy of books to the entire population. And if they refuse to listen to me, I smack them a few times with my learning stick. Alright, so, what are we talking about today? I'll tell you what we're talking about today. The book fruit, which, let's just be honest here, is the most devastating out of all of the devil fruits. And do you know why? Because reading is power, kids. Reading is power. I'm a wizard. Okay, so today's video, as I said, is going to be all about the book fruit. It's one of those abilities, just based on the name alone, you're not really sure what direction Oda's going to take it. Is it like a literal indication of its powers? Like, for example, can they just, like, create books and just throw them at the opponent? That would actually be kind of funny. It would be like you think that this power is going to have some sort of, like, weird, you know, metaphor because it's books, but no, it's just, no, I just create books and I just throw them at people and that's my power. And to be fair, the user, Charlotte Mont, could do that if he— oh my god! Oh my god! He is actually terrifying when I actually look at him up close. Why is he a clown? Seriously, why is he a clown? Wearing some weird skin-tight skeleton Halloween costume. Is that supposed to be indicative of something? Like, do clowns often read books to kids? Because let me tell you, I was in elementary school at one point, and we had a lot of story times, like Friday afternoons were like story times. We'd have a guest speaker to come in, and I could guarantee you, never once was it a damn clown, alright? Because I think most of the kids would just get up and jump out the window if it was a one-story elementary school. Just get up and jump out the window into the recess yard and just leave if that was the case, you know? Because clowns, it's kind of hit or miss with that. It's like, hey there, kids, I'm Richie the Reading Clown. Today we're gonna learn all about Frog and Toad. Where are you guys going? You know? So I don't know why he's a clown, but it's terrifying. Maybe he's going with a whole, like, Pennywise thing with it. Like, remember at the beginning of It, which is actually, fun fact, the only Stephen King book that I ever read in its entirety, and it took me, like, all of my junior year to read it, but I managed to persevere. Yeah, at the beginning of It, when Georgie's looking for his boat and Pennywise pops out of the sewer, he's like, hey there, Georgie, do you want to read the collective works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle? Well, come on down! Also balloons, but I don't know where it's going with that, but he's got the creepy factor down, Mont. But no, his ability doesn't just involve physically using books. He can summon books and throw them at people, and he can even walk on top of books, like summoning books, and then he can, like, bend out their spines like this, and he can literally use them as platforms to walk on the air, you know? So I guess his own version of Geppo in a sense, although he's not really walking on the air itself, he's just making platforms for him, but he can still get where he needs to be pretty quick with that ability. But no, the true power of the book fruit is trapping the opponent in a world of books. Now, this can mean literally, like, you're actually physically thrown into a book, and the book is shut, and then when you're open, you're, like, stuck in a jail cell and you can't leave. You're pinned to the actual book itself. Or it could be more of a kind of trippy, you know, 1970s Inagata-Davida sort of deal, where whenever Luffy was fighting Mont, he basically just had a book kind of like hover over Luffy, and Luffy got, like, sent into the world of books, but he was still physically in the real world, and he was getting the crap beat out of him by the other members of the army. So it was really just like a disorientation, kind of hypnotism sort of ability. The world that Luffy found himself in was very distorted, abstract, all these random, like, there was a skeleton in there, all these weird things just hanging around, kind of very similar to Jola's art fruit, honestly. I probably should do that one next, if we're being serious here, because that's another weird one. But yeah, so he could do that, and just like, oh, I'm, like, tripping out here, man, and in reality, you're completely incapacitated, and you just keep getting the crap beat out of you by other opponents. Mont tended to carry a rifle around on his back, but you could see, but just based on his ability and the way that he acted during the final battle at Totland, he wasn't really like a frontline fighter kind of dude. He stayed stationed at Whole Cake, and he used his powers to connect all the various, you know, teams and ships together. So he took out a book, and he can actually take out various Den Mushis through the pages, and he can link up all of Totland. So he's like their communications supervisor during that event, you know? So he's like, oh, Pero Sparrow, how's Mama doing? Daifuku's fleet, how are you doing? How's the situation over on Puff's Island? How's the situation on Cacao Island, Oven? That's how he worked with his ability, you know? He could take various Den Mushis connected, hardwired all over Totland. So that's pretty cool. Kind of similar to how Brule has the mirror network all over Totland. Mont has the book network. And that
And actually, considering the way the Totland is set up and everything, you want to make sure there's no dissension. You have Brule watching all of the mirrors in the entire island, so if anybody says something like bad about Big Mom or something, or like a threat we're going to try to take her out or something, Brule's probably going to know about it. So I'm wondering if it's the same deal with the books. Granted, some of the books are actually homies, but like any book that somebody's reading in Totland, could Mont like access in some way? Could he just like, I'm reading a book like, I think we're gonna try to assassinate Big Mom. This Mont rifle just comes out of. Actually, we don't think we're gonna do that now. Damn straight. And just goes back into the book. Like, I don't know exactly how it works. We haven't really seen him use books in that way, like teleporting between them. That is more of the mirror powers, but his powers involve summoning books, so I wonder if he has like an internal library, like if he's like, Catcher in the Rye, and he just a book, just Catcher in the Rye, just pops out of his mouth, or he could just summon it wherever. Whenever we see the books close up in the anime, it's usually just a book that has like an English genre on it, like mystery, action, romance, horror, and that's just the title of the books themselves. So we don't see him like, Frankenstein or Frankenstein or this is the Junji Ito take on Frankenstein. This is a manga, but it's creepy. Junji Ito, always really good with the horror. It's like Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. I'm just gonna poof it into existence. So I wonder exactly how it works, if the books that he summons are actual books, or they're just like the representation of books. Like they're like a book that you would see in like Scooby-Doo or something, where, it doesn't really have a title, and if you open it up, it's just a bunch of random squiggles inside of it. Like, can he actually make real life books? Something else kind of interesting that I'm sure a lot of writers have probably thought of before, because every time I try to sit down and try to write a story, and I've tried it before, back when I was in middle school, high school, I was like, I'm gonna try to write a short story or something. I always came to this roadblock where it was like, I wish I could take every idea in my head and just throw it into the book immediately, because it's like, I know the beginning, middle, and end, but it's taking me too long to write the beginning. I'm bored by that point. And people have said, why don't you try text-to-speech? Like, no. I want to just get out and just boom, just throw it at a freaking computer screen. So if we could get to that point where you could hook me up to some sort of like mental absorption dealy, and then you just take my ideas and throw it into text, that would be cool. We should make that. That should be our top priority right now. So I'm wondering though, could Mont do that? Could he just like think about a plan or something? Like, here's my plan on how we're gonna stop the Straw Hats, and he could just create a book and just give it to everybody, like, you get a copy, you get a copy, you get a copy, you get a copy. He's like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. So yeah, I mean, does it have a difference between hardcover or soft cover? Can he make flyers and pamphlets, or does it have to be a book? Is there a word or a page minimum? This is the thing I'm really concerned about when I'm looking at his power, obviously. So yeah, on top of trapping people just psychedelically in the world of books, as I said, he can also trap them physically, and he did this with Luffy and Nami and a bunch of other creatures and people all throughout the world, and they make up Big Mom's prison library. Okay, so the prison on Totland is not the same prison as like Impel Down. It's just basically a bunch of books lined up, and then you take a book and you open it up, and inside the book there's like prison bars and a description on the left hand side of who's in the prison, and the people inside cannot leave as long as they're pinned to the page. And so they literally take like a little pin, like a push pin, and push it through their flesh. I'm not sure if it hurts when they do that, but with that pin in, they are cemented into the book and they cannot move. Luffy he almost tore his arms off trying to get out of the damn book. This is Luffy we're talking about. He was a pretty strong dude, and just a tiny little pin pushed between both of his hands was proven too strong for him to get out. So somebody that's in the book, it's going to be really hard to get out. Now, I guess the best way to stress test this is if you were to capture like Kaido or Shanks or somebody and throw them in the book and see if they could get out, but I don't know. But Luffy was like, basically just winding his arms around over and over again to the point where he reached his limit, stretching with his rubber powers, and his arms were like just spewing blood all over Nami, and it was actually kind of a really messed up scene where Nami's getting blood splattered in her face. Oh my god, Luffy, would you please stop already? You're gonna rip your arms off. Like, I don't care, I'm getting out of this damn book if it kills me. Eventually, Jinbei showed up and revealed the true weakness of the book, much like Mr. Three's Doku Doku. No, Doru Doru. Doku Doku, that's Magellan's. Doru Doru, the wax fruit is, Mr. Three could make wax that was hard as steel, but it was still wax, so fire still melted it. Mont can make books to trap any number of living things or inanimate objects inside of, and they can't get out. But they're still books. They're still made of paper. So if you light them on fire, it might be a bit dangerous because the people inside could die as well, just a fire, but, the fire will allow you to break free of the pages and the paper, the little push pin will come undone and you can get out. Or you could burn to death, whichever comes first. But in the case with Luffy and Nami, they managed to get away. Well, with the exception of Nami's clothes, they got kind of burned off, so, it's fan service. What are you going to do about that? But, yeah, you could also use water, I would imagine. Anything that you could use to really just damage a book in real life. And let me tell you, we had a massive flood in our basement about a year ago, and we had some books down there, and I tried maybe I could say, no, they're all destroyed. They were all ruined, and that's the sad thing. So I'm sure fire or water or any other thing that would destroy a book, you can use to counter Montdoor's abilities, right? So in terms of actual attacks with books, I said, yeah, he could probably make books to just throw at people. We've never seen that, but that might actually not be as weird or as lame as an attack as you think. I mean, yeah, if all he could create is little tiny books and just and just throw them at people, sure. But we've seen with the books in the prison library, he can make really big books too. So I'm wondering, what is the total limit of the books he could create? Could he create a giant book the size of a skyscraper and then boom, it's War and Peace! Boom! War and Peace Buster! Freaking, here it comes! Dictionary demolition! And just takes a giant dictionary and then just slams it on people. That would be really cool. I mean, hey, that's the second character in an anime or manga I've seen use books as a primary weapon next to Maka from Soul Eater. So, there you go, too. I'm sure there's others. I'm just not thinking of them right now. That's the thing about anime. No matter what ability you can think of, somebody somewhere has probably used it in some way. There is probably some character in some anime or manga, maybe even one that I've seen, I just can't remember right now, that it's I summon giant books to throw at people and that's my power. I'd be like, all right, buddy, you keep on doing what you're doing. All right, it's different anyway, right? Something else to mention involving the anime is that whenever we saw the book text close up in the anime, they're flipping through the pages and everything, we got to see a few interesting things. The thing that I think most people point out is this scene right here where we see the word admiral, implying that there is a Navy admiral somewhere in the books. I don't take that too seriously. The way I looked at it is they were basically just trying to find some English words that would fit in One Piece to just throw in the books for the purposes of turning the pages. So, that's the word they ended up using. It's an unfortunate word, but it's an anime filler thing. So don't think of it like Big Mom captured a Navy admiral and she threw him in the book. Honestly, though, if that was canon, I don't see why that's something to go crazy over, because she's Big Mom. She's been around for decades. She's a Yonko. Clearly, there were admirals in the Marines before, Aokiji and Akainu and Kizaru, so I wouldn't be surprised if, 20-something years ago, there was a completely different admiral, and he only was around for a brief amount of time, and he got captured by Big Mom and thrown in a book. I don't think that's the case, because that seems to be a rather important plot point that was just glossed over in the manga, something just added in the anime, so I don't think that's the case, but if anybody had enough power to capture an admiral, I would say it's a Yonko, right? So, fair enough. But yeah, or you could look at it in the sense Blackbeard is considered an admiral of his fleet, even though he's not part of the Navy. So maybe that term admiral, maybe it was just a pirate back in the day, kind of like Orlumbus, that had a really large fleet and was an admiral of that fleet, not an admiral in the sense of the Marines, a really strong, one of the strongest members in the entire, Navy and one of the strongest characters in the entire series. Not that kind of admiral, more of an Orlumbus kind of admiral. general. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But don't worry too much about that. Other things that she keeps in her books are a unicorn, which I'm pretty sure is just a zebra that Law was messing around with his Oppi Oppi no Mi powers. There's also a panda. There's also a long-limbed human. That's a crossbreed between a long arm and a long leg, and they got together, kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of deal, because both families apparently hate each other. You know, the long arms hate the long legs, but at one point they got together and they had a kid, and it's the long-limbed human that has long arms and long legs, and we don't get to see that person too closely, but yeah, they are also contained inside of the book. Basically, it's any weird kind of creature or object that Big Mom finds fascinating that she keeps in these books, and she's showing them to the Germa like they're only her little private like aquarium or a collection of, you know, interesting, like, here's my collection of bobbleheads. Actually, they're my collection of actual living beings that I keep inside of books. Also, while you're inside of the book, it's like your bodily functions are in like a state of like suspended animation, so you don't need to worry about eating or sleeping or drinking anything. It's not like they have to open the books up every day and give them water or anything. It's like the animals inside of there, once the book is shut, I think they enter a state of just like sealed animation where they're just frozen until the next time somebody opens up the page, and then they start moving around again. But before then, they're just like, no, don't shut the book! And then they could open it up like, I don't know, 2 years later, and it'd be like, oh, so why did you shut it like that? Why did you? You know, so I don't know what it was like inside of the book, but considering it was a prison, I can't imagine that they were really enjoying themselves too much. Now, whenever we saw Luffy and Nami inside of the book, it was open for most of the parts, so it was like they're active and they're trying to move around because Big Mom was still trying to figure out what they were going to do with them, and Opera was making sure to watch over them because this was kind of a special exception. But yeah, I'm thinking, you know, once you're inside that book, you can't get out. You just shut the page, put them on the bookshelf, and just they're there for whenever you want to, like, oh, look at my collection. She also had a manticore from Impel Down that escaped. She pinned in there, so that's the situation there. Also, I'm assuming kind of the same deal with sugar and a lot of other devil fruits that have this massive effect all over the entire area. If Mont were to ever, you know, get knocked out or killed by somebody, well, most certainly if he was killed, but if he was knocked out, his devil fruit power would deactivate, and maybe everything inside of the books would just like, oh, crap, and the books would explode. So that's the risk when you have a devil fruit user with that kind of ability. Like Sugar's ability, the Hobby no Mi, really powerful ability, but, you know, it doesn't matter how much work she puts into it, how many people she turns to toys, she gets knocked out once. Just once, and all of that just goes belly up, which I think was bound to happen at some point during Doflamingo's reign. Like, even if enemies never invaded, she might be walking down the street one day and see a really scary insect or something, and she'd be like, ah, and then passed out, and then Doflamingo's plan is like, ah, crap, alright, birdcage, you know, but, So yeah, that's Montor's power. He never had, like, outside of the Enraged Army, he never had a direct confrontation with Straw Hat or with, but yeah, anyway, that's the power of Montor's book fruit. You know, I wish we would have gotten to see a little bit more of it. Oda talked about it in an SBS, and it's just like, it's one of those fruits that's really multifaceted, has a bunch of different things you could do with it. I mean, like, I don't think he could use the fruit like this, because this would be really OP, what I'm thinking of. But if he could have a book and he could take objects or things, like, in the text, like, out of it. Like, he could take Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and take the monster out of Frankenstein and use it to fight on his behalf. Maybe, like, an awakening form of the fruit would have that or something. That would be really cool. Or not even going that far with it. Just like, well... Alright, Luffy, so let's see what you can fight against. A beholder! Ooh, that'll be fun. A ghoul. We could send a gibbering mouther at you. That looks like you should have fun with that. Brook, what are you gonna fight against? Brook's gonna fight against a Grimlock. Let's see. Frankie, you could take on a werebear. That looks like fun. That looks like a super fight for you. Ooh, a mimic. Ooh, a nightmare. Get it? It's a nightmare, because a mare can mean a horse, but nightmare can also mean nightmare, but it's a fire horse. We got snakes. Oh, wait, Sahagin. No, hold up. It's in here somewhere. Okay, the ultimate final battle for the Straw Hats. Yeah, let's bust out the Tarrasque on this party. Yeah! Montdoor's sitting there, Katakuri's defeated, Big Mom's like, wedding cake! I'm like, oh man, alright, I don't have any options left. Bring me the monster manual. Master Mont, you can't mean. Oh, desperate times come for desperate measures. I awaken the power of the Tarrasque. You know, and just starts stomping all over all of freaking Totland. But yeah, that would be fun. Or, you know, just, you could keep it simply and you could just use, like, objects, you know, like, okay, this is the player's handbook here. But you could be like, yeah, just, you know, take a sword or an axe or something and just pull it out of the book and then just use it as a weapon. And like, honestly, if it was only limited to basic inanimate objects, kind of like axes and shields and stuff, I don't think that would be too ridiculously OP. Or even like maybe he can't pull it out of the book, but he could store it in the book. He could definitely do that because we've seen that before. So Mont could take a book of like, this is my weapon index or whatever. He goes into the armory in Totland, takes an axe, takes a rifle, takes a shield, takes whatever he needs. He could even store people in there, so he could maybe take certain people to use as like his private fighting force, throw them all in a book, and then when he's on the battlefield, he's like, oh, the enemy is advancing. We need a group of people to form a shield wall. He's like, okay, hold on, let me page 72, what freaking index? All right, boom, and then like 10 like loyal servants of Big Mom pop out with shields, like, ho! And that would be really cool if he could do stuff like that. So you can see all the different, like, multifaceted thing. The world of books is truly a marvelous thing, isn't it? I love books. I'm running out of room to keep them, though. I have one bookshelf in my room. I have a bunch over there on my dresser, which is slowly getting overboard. I keep all my manga over there. When I move out of here, I need to get a room with just like 3 or 4 giant bookcases and just put all my books on, and I'm just gonna sit in front of them and just drink some tea and just... this is what life is all about right here. What is your favorite book? That's an obvious question to ask at the ending of the video. I mean, I got some of my favorites here. This is a good one I was reading. I just finished this recently. This is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, one of the like extra expanded universe of Game of Thrones. Takes place about 100 years before the events of Game of Thrones. It features Sir Duncan the Tall, but this is a really good... This is actually 3 different stories in one kind of here. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go over every book here because obviously we don't have time for that, but, you know, The Metamorphosis by Kafka is pretty good. The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, really short book, but good read nonetheless. Let's see, Game of Thrones and Philosophy, Penny Dreadful I got. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green, that's a great book. But yeah, I'm not going to go over every book here, but yeah, just let me know what your favorite books are below, what your favorite read was, maybe when you were in elementary school or when you were a little kid, and what your favorite book is right now. I'm also a big fan of mythology, as you can see here, so yeah, that's the situation. But yeah, with that being said, I'm just going to, hold on, turn back into my alter ego here. I am the Reading Wizard. You know, reading wizards can also send you into a weird, kind of trippy environment like Montdor did, but we have to invoke the powers of a deity in order to do so. We can't just throw a book over your head and send you in there. Oh, I call upon the great powers of the Amazon! Alexa, better butter. Ooh. Yeah, all of my spells involve either butter, cheese, or milk. It's a very dairy-centric spell book, but what can you do? All right, have a great night, everybody. And remember, give a hoot. Read a book. Drider, it's like a spider woman. I could throw an elemental at them. Freaking Ettercap. I don't know what the hell it is. It looks like a shrimp alien thing. An Empyreon, which looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger if he was like an archangel. Like, how did they come up with this crap? Look, I've never played a campaign of D&D. I'd want to, clearly, hence why I own the books. But, you know, it's like, maybe people that have played campaigns will tell me this, but looking through these monsters and shit, don't you get to the point where it's like, man, I want to include, like, all of these in there? I mean, there's a few in here that are pretty lame and dorky, but, like, look at this! Look at this! The Flesh Golem! This is like Frankenstein's monster. He's like a freaking zombie, but not... Like, damn, that thing looks awesome. Like, you're walking through an old abandoned house or something, you find this in the basement? Holy crap. I'm just gonna include everything. They'll be dead before they leave the first town, but whatever. At least it'd be cool. You go into Monsterville. There's a Gorgon. He's like a steel, like, bull that runs you down. A Grell. A Grimlock. Who comes up with these? The one that I always wanted to use if I ever, maybe not like in the first campaign I do, but I was like, I saw it and I immediately knew I was gonna love it. So it's, I think it's in here. Hold on, this is the G's. It's in the werebears. Yeah, the lycanthropes and everything. Here. Lich. If you know what a lich is, if you've ever seen Adventure Time, you know. But no, liches are awesome. But they're like, it's like, yeah, this thing's like armor class 17. Yeah, this thing's pretty strong. You don't want to just throw. You just happen to be wandering through the forest and there's just a lich hanging out. You go fight it, guys. You know, like this would be like a campaign ending thing. But I'm reading all about like the lich and everything and how you kill them and how hard it is. And I'm just like, oh. And it could cast like 9th level spells. Oh, this would be so much fun. Yeah, alright, so gotta use the lich at some point. I'm on the quest for the lich. But yeah. Crazy Kuatoa. See, this is every now and then. It's just like a fish-headed dude. It's just like, I'm a guy that has a fish for a head. No one likes the Kuatoa. Alright. Later, guys.